Welcome home to St. Anne's. We want you to know that you're welcome to join us at 10 a.m. on Sundays. Please be sure to hit subscribe to receive our sermons. We can't wait to meet you.
My notes back there, and I never look at my notes, but I carry them with me because, I just like to have them. So it's my security blanket. It is. I'm like Linus. Please have a seat. And here's the thing. I went to all that effort to go get them, and I'll never even look at them. But somehow having them makes me feel better. So it is the fourth Sunday of Advent. So we are almost there, y'all. We are really, really close. And as many of you know, if you've been around with me for a little while, you know that this is what I call Feminist Sunday. Little known thing, everyone thinks that the pink candle, because we chicks like pink, is Marian Sunday. No, that's wrong. It's wrong. It's very, very wrong. It's inaccurate. I mean, pink is a lovely color. I like it. But no, the fourth Sunday is actually Marian Sunday. And it's the Sunday, did you guys, maybe nobody noticed last week, but we always talk about John the Baptist on the third week, who is in no way at all like Mary. John the Baptist is his own weird little person. And feminine could never be used to describe him. That's a whole Latin thing. Go to tape, but we weren't here. I wasn't here, so we're not even going to talk about that. We're going to talk about today is Feminist Sunday. And I don't know if you know this or not, but I'm a raging feminist, so this is like my Sunday. I wait for it all year. I know, right? You're like, yeah, we know. So we're going to talk about that a little bit, but there's another piece of this that I want to talk about, and it's Joseph in his particular role, because I think Joseph is somebody that we can relate to in this story. And maybe, just maybe, Joseph is a pretty big feminist. Let's see if we can get there. Give me a minute. Okay, so we get the story of how Mary, how many kids do we have in here? Okay, I can talk about sex with her, right? She can handle it. Okay, so virgin does not mean what virgin means now, okay? This has nothing to do with hymen, okay? Can we just put that out there? Virgin at this time means you're simply not married yet. Nobody was worried about the technical, physical details. Okay? Nobody. So don't worry about that piece. It's not important to the story. I know, we get really caught up in the science of weird stuff. But it's not important. That's not what virgin means. When Isaiah tells this story, he's like, the virgin, they just mean young woman. Okay? I mean, it's just when we say young lady, it would be virgin, right? Okay, so don't get too hung up on details here. I mean, you can if you want. If God's providence is dependent on some of these things and you need to get hung up on that, God bless you. But whatever. Okay, but I think some of you guys know this, but I went to a Catholic elementary school. I did. Great education. Kind of lacking in the theology here. And I honestly did not like Mary until I went to college. Because Mary in Roman Catholicism, and my apologies for those of you who are recovering Catholics, it is legit a term, and you know it is. If you are one, you're like, yeah, I'm there. But Mary is held up to all women as you gotta be like Mary, man. Sex is bad, but it's okay if you're procreating. And Mary was a perpetual virgin. And I think Joseph is a great guy, but I don't think he would have signed on to that. And if you read the end of our gospel today, he didn't sign on to that because he's Joseph. Okay, so let's talk about Joseph some here, because Joseph is really our unsung hero. And I've spent a lot of time coming to grips with Mary, because Mary is amazing. She is a theologian. She knows what she's signing on to. She is committed to this. And when she hears a story, and we don't have it today, but she does the Song of Mary, which really harkens back to the history that she's coming from. She is a rockin' theologian. She gets her place in history. She understands that God's plan comes through many, many generations of women who do not what the world tells them to do, but what God tells them to do. And some of it's pretty not good stuff, right? But she understands that in her willingness to go up against society, she is proclaiming God. She gets that. Joseph, not so much. We're going to get there. We're going to save Joseph. But it's going to take us a little bit of time. Because Joseph is one of his people. And he's like, oh, dang. Because you can only hide a pregnancy for so long, right? I mean, it's like one of those, like, you can't keep that secret forever. We all gonna find out. And he's like, I'm gonna have to explain to my mom. Yeah. Joseph is really concerned about how he's gonna look to everybody else. And he's like, well, I mean, I should stone her publicly, but me being righteous, I won't stone her publicly. I will just subtly go to her and say, we're done here. Now, we think that Joseph is we see righteous as like, oh, look, isn't Joseph wonderful? He's not going to stone her publicly. Oh, no, he's going to throw her into the back 40 where she's going to starve to death unless she becomes a prostitute. Good job, Joseph. No. And God is like, oh, my God, Joseph, seriously. So God is like, we got to go in a dream. The angels, we got to go to a dream because Joseph is not picking this up. He's not getting this yet. And so we get the dream, and Joseph's like, oh, okay. I can get on board with this. Let's talk about that a little bit. Because I think sometimes in our culture, we want to be the God-bearer ourselves, right? We want all the joy and all the credit and all that stuff. We want the Marian statue, right? Because Mary, for whichever side you land on, if you land like me on the feminist, like, you go Mary, you got this. Or you land on the Virgin Mary, she's so perfect and all women should be just like her. We have statues of Mary everywhere, right? We have Marian worship. And I don't mean that in a bad way. I don't see Marian worship as a horrible, awful thing. I think it's important that we raise her up. And we see her as an amazing woman who goes against everything to proclaim God and to pursue the gospel. She is the reason that we have the gospel. And I don't like the term God-bearer too much because it seems kind of gross. But she is. And that's romantic. That's romantic, right? Joseph? Not so romantic. Like, we don't hear much about Joseph from here on out. Like, oh, there's that one time when Jesus gets loose at the temple and, Mary gets upset and Joseph's like, go back and get that kid. Your son is over in the temple, right? And how many times do you think Joseph was like, your son, you and God's son, is being a jerk, right? But really, there's not a whole lot more about Joseph, right? And that is what I think the power of Joseph is. Joseph isn't about the credit of this. Joseph supports Mary. He goes up against society to support her, to make sure that God comes into the world in this way. Have you ever seen the stories? He's the one walking along with the donkey. Like, she's like, I'm sitting cross-eyed on this donkey with my big old belly. You know, that poor donkey's like, oh my God. But like, he's there. He's supporting her. What does that mean for you and me? What does that mean if we aren't the ones who have the beautiful story with the statues and all the glory and the wonder and all that stuff? What if you and I are called to support those who bear God? Does that change anything? Does it change if we don't need the credit for it? Does it mean anything if you and I are meant to help usher into the kingdom of God? Because what if? What if that's what we're called to do? I believe each of us in our own particular way is a God bearer. I really, truly believe that. And you guys know that Mary, I'm there with Mary. But sometimes I think maybe you and I get a little bit hooked into that glory piece, into we want the credit for this stuff. But what if we don't need it? What if that's not our role at all? What if our role is to help lead the donkey? What if our role is to go bang on the doors and find a place to stay? What if our role is to help her in that birth? Because you better believe those camels weren't helping. That was Joseph. And anyone ever been there for the birth of a child knows, ew. The only good thing about giving birth to a child is that you're up here and you're not down there. That is the only good thing about giving birth. Let me tell you. The best thing was they're like, do you want us to pull down? No, I don't want you to pull down no mirror. I do not want you to pull down no mirror. That is literally, they asked me that with my daughter. I was like, are you kidding me? Ew. Yes, gross. She's like, amen. She's like, girl, I was the one coming out and it wasn't operating. Okay, but what if? What if that is our role? What if our role is to help usher that in? What if our role is to support? What if our role isn't about the glory at all? And I think that is the power of this gospel, because Joseph is a feminist. He is. And he's not a Gloria Steinem, we're going to march on Washington one. He's the one who stays home with the kids to make sure that she can go march on Washington. And guys, we need that, and you and I are called to be that. You and I are called to make sure that these things happen. And sometimes it's not in the beautiful, glorious ways that get us credit. Sometimes it's in the ways that make it happen on the ground. And that is what you and I are called to do. And that is the power of this gospel, is sometimes how we bring the gospel about isn't pretty. And sometimes it doesn't make the front of the newspaper. And guys, that's how we get there.
We want you to know that you're welcome to join us at 10 a.m. on Sundays. Please be sure to hit subscribe to receive our sermons. We can't wait to meet you.
Let's stand together and say